When the Beatles burst onto the global scene in the early 1960s, they were seen as mop-topped heartthrobs, bringing energy and charm to a post-war world ready for joy. But as the decade progressed, the band evolved into something far more complex, a mirror and a catalyst for the massive cultural, political, and spiritual upheavals that defined the 1960s. The Beatles and the counterculture became inseparable, one feeding off the other, reshaping music, fashion, values, and collective consciousness. Together, they helped rewrite what it meant to be young, free, and disillusioned in a rapidly changing world. The early Beatles mania years may have looked clean-cut, but even then, the seeds of rebellion were being sown. Songs like She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand captured youthful exuberance, but the hysteria surrounding the band, screaming fans, record-breaking appearances, and massive media attention signaled a deeper cultural shift. For the first time, young people were being recognized as a social and economic force, and the Beatles were their leaders. By the mid-1960s, the Beatles began to break away from their squeaky clean image. The turning point came with Rubber Soul in 1965, a record that reflected growing introspection, emotional depth, and musical experimentation. Influenced by Bob Dylan, marijuana, and an expanding intellectual curiosity, the Beatles started addressing themes that resonated with the counterculture: alienation, self-discovery, and existential yearning. Tracks like Norwegian Wood and Nowhere Man captured the confusion and dislocation felt by many young people. Then came Revolver in 1966, a psychedelic masterpiece that further aligned the Beatles with the emerging countercultural ethos. Songs like Tomorrow Never Knows, inspired by the Tibetan Book of the Dead and acid trips, pushed sonic boundaries and introduced Eastern philosophy to Western audiences. George Harrison's interest in Indian music and spirituality, sparked by his sitar on Norwegian Wood and friendship with Ravi Shankar, signaled a broader cultural awakening that spread far beyond music. In 1967, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band became the defining soundtrack of the Summer of Love. A kaleidoscope of color, sound, and surrealism, the album embodied the ideals of peace, unity, and creative liberation. From the whimsical Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds to the philosophical A Day in the Life, Sgt. Pepper wasn't just an album. It was an event, a manifesto, and an invitation to explore new dimensions of consciousness. The Beatles didn't just reflect the counterculture, they shaped it. Their fashion evolved from matching suits to colorful, bohemian attire that influenced global style. Their use of mind-expanding substances like LSD was mirrored by millions of youth seeking spiritual insight and rebellion against societal norms. Their songs became protest anthems, self-help guides, and sacred texts for the flower children of the 60s. Their political voice grew stronger with time. John Lennon became increasingly outspoken, using his platform to protest the Vietnam War, promote peace, and critique the establishment. Songs like Revolution and later Give Peace a Chance cemented Lennon as a symbol of resistance and hope. The Beatles weren't overtly political as a group, but their impact on political thought and cultural transformation was undeniable. The Beatles also embraced and influenced countercultural ideals about love, freedom, and non-materialism. Their decision to travel to Rishikesh, India in 1968 to study transcendental meditation under Maharishi Mahesh Yogi captivated global attention and popularized Eastern spirituality in the West. Though their time with the Maharishi ended complicated terms, the ripple effects on Western thought, health, and lifestyle trends were enormous. Yet, like the counterculture itself, the Beatles' journey was not without disillusionment. By the late 1960s, their utopian dreams began to fade. The tensions within the band grew, mirroring the fragmentation of the wider movement. The chaos surrounding the White Album, the political discord of 1968, and the dark energy of the Let It Be sessions all pointed to a cultural calm-down. Their breakup in 1970 symbolized, in many ways, the end of the 1960s dream. Still, the legacy remains. The Beatles gave voice to a generation that questioned authority, sought spiritual depth, and dared to imagine a better world. They showed that music could be more than entertainment. It could be a force for transformation. Through lyrics, style, and spirit, the Beatles became the ultimate soundtrack for rebellion, reflection, and revolution. In the end, the Beatles didn't just live through the counterculture, they defined it. And more than 50 years later, then, their message of love, truth, and possibility still speaks to the dreamers and changemakers of every generation.